For most of his 20s, Miles was hustling, but he wasn't a pro. Work, health, friends, and family. They all lived in separate boxes. But when he hit 30, deep in debt and at his lowest point, he flipped a mental switch. He decided to treat business like a sport. This episode is about the moment Miles turned pro and how everything changed after that.
To the rhythm of my intuition, anything I want, I speak into existence. That's how I'm.
Okay, episode 30 for Finding Rhythm. Love it. Let's go.
All right, let's start all the way back at the beginning. You said that you were in the game since 18, but not really playing it like a pro. What did those early years look like?
Yeah, like in the game of business since 18, we've mentioned on the show a couple times, that's when the first one started with the original hockey lace belts. But in those early days, you don't know anything. Like everything is brand new. And, with the lace belt, it was like, coming up with the idea, creating samples, finding a manufacturer, getting them made, selling them to stores, and going through that process. And kind of the infrastructure was already built with the partnership we made for it. But even with Summer Skates, which is always like the first real business, every single thing that I did was like doing it for the first time, right? Like finding the manufacturer, right? Doing a deal there, importing products into the country, building a website, setting up Facebook and Instagram pages, and then meeting Kevin and everything, and going to a trade show and running Facebook ads, doing Snapchat and figuring out filters and like making a cold call for the first time, doing a cold email, doing a email blast, scraping leads. Every element of it was so new to me. Those are just like rookie years. So just like eyes wide open, just going through it. Not thinking about it too much, just kind of riding the wave in those early days and just soaking up as much as I could. I was lucky enough to have Kevin be my partner at that time, and he guided me a lot and taught me a lot and showed me a lot. But yeah, I was just soaking it up and learning every day and then executing on top of that. So those early days were just figuring it out.
You had a lot of businesses, momentum, wins, but also some setbacks. What was missing in your approach back then?
Yeah, what was missing was, again, because I didn't know anything, right? So in hindsight or like in reflection, I could see what was missing. But in the moment, there was no way for me to know. I didn't really know what it took to build a business, right? The really amount of work and focus and like consistency, I think is the biggest one, like staying consistent on it. I was just like enjoying the experience. So much was happening at once, right? Like we were doing deals with NHL players and NHL teams and going to award shows and traveling across North America. And the business was growing and growing. And, we were just racking up wins in those early days, in those early years. But if I think back, I was just, I was in my early 20s and mid 20s. So I was distracted by a lot of things.
And you've described it as kind of like a cycle. You work hard, burn out, disappear, repeat. Why do you think so many builders fall into that problem?
Yeah, because you work really hard, you get like really obsessed and you're just head down and nothing else matters. And then you need like a release. So you go and party or, go essentially disappear, try not to think about it, I guess. Even as I say that too, it was even like on a weekly cycle, right? You would like be working really hard, call it Monday to Friday. And yeah, you would be doing a little bit of work on Saturday and Sunday, like social media stuff, but you'd be checked out. And then my brain would be separated of like, you're essentially living for the weekend at that time. Like, oh, where are we going? Are we going out to a bar? Are we going down Toronto? We're going on a trip. Like, checking out. And I think when you're somewhat young, it's easy to bounce back and forth, right? To, work, have the weekend, and then hop back into it. But you don't generate true momentum when you're doing it like that. So that's what that cycle was. It's like you work hard because you don't have like the proper rhythm of it. That's where that burnout happens too, right? Where you're just burning it from the candle from both ends, right? You're not really in it from a holistic approach. So the cycle is just like, that's what I'm saying.
Okay. And you've talked about 30 being a turning point. What was going on in your life at that moment?
Yeah. See, this is the thing. Even as I'm talking about that too, when I was in my 20s doing it, like everything was working too, right? So felt like there was no awareness to be like, I need to change anything, right? It was just like everything I touch is working. This shit's easy. Like that was like the mentality of it. But going into 2020, 19 into 20, I was like, okay, here comes this big change, start of a new decade. Like that's when I was going to stop day-to-day summer skates and start this new chapter of my business career, coming off of like everything working. So I was like fired up for it. And then everything went like down into the hole where 2020 happened and I wasn't doing summer skates. The pandemic hit and lost the big ball manufacturer. And then the kind of consulting company at that time, there wasn't anyone to consult because everyone was locked down. And kind of went through in that 2020 of that, but I was 29 during that period. And then into 2021, I needed to like refocus because I was like, I got to figure this out, right? Like I got nothing going on. I'm not doing summer skates anymore, which was my whole identity from 20 to 30 or 20 to 29. I don't have a big ball manufacturer, which was going to be my next business. So I'm starting from scratch on that. I had the consulting company, which I was going to run up so I could actually make some money while we're building these businesses, because I knew I had the awareness of, physical products are hard and it takes a while to get them going to actually make money for yourself. Everything has to be reinvested, buy more inventory, reinvest. So when I turned 30, I was like, okay, I got to really dial this in. That as well, I had bigger ambitions in my mind of who I wanted to become and what I wanted to do. And this is where this like reality check of like, okay, let's get serious here, right? Like there's also a lot of influence of like Rob Dyrdek, kind of his content was floating around at that time, and kind of building the forever plan for yourself. And so there was definitely a mental switch that happened. And I started to put the forever plan together of what I wanted to do and who I wanted to do it with a path of the life I wanted to build. Yeah, that's when things got serious, and got engaged that year to Elisa in that November. And then that January of 2022 is like really when I had to turn pro mentally, because we were in deep shit.
What did it feel like to start over with debt, doubt, and no really clear path?
Yeah, it was probably the first time that I was like scared, like, because I just got engaged. We were getting married that year, and Elisa, the company that she had worked for, went out of business, and I had been working on this partnership with that company, went out of business too. So we were there in 800 square foot basement apartment, getting married that year. She doesn't have a job, and she's had a job her whole life. And I don't have any businesses going on. And I've had a business my whole life, an active one going. And because there was all these like unforeseen things that appeared too, like there was no money coming in, and there was even like debt on the credit cards, my credit cards. So a lot of, I would say, fear, but then it was like, it's all on you. Get serious about this shit. What are you going to do? And I also remember at that time, I was like, you can't rely on anyone else. You need to figure your way out of this. And that can be a powerful thing though too, right? When like your back's up against the wall and you're feeling desperate. So I spun up Umbrella again, landed, I think, 4 clients to do like their marketing and from strategy to content creation to execution of everything. And it was like 4 or 5. And immediately from there, I think I was making, I don't know, $6,000 a month. So I was like, okay, we have money coming in now. Okay. So that was like core number 1. Spun this up, started executed, we have money coming in. And then we will go into February, then we go into March, then Lynette comes to us. Then she approaches us to start Neighbor Media. Okay, then Neighbor Media is coming up. Then did a deal with Lynette. At that time I said, okay, Elisa needs like a monthly income if we're going to make this jump. Committed to that. Thank you, Lynette, so much. So I'm like, okay, Elisa's good now too. Okay, so I got something coming in. Elisa's got something coming in. Okay, now we're rolling too. Then spun up the pool business into that spring and made like a really good chunk of money at once and like cleared out all the debt. And now we have money coming in. And now I can feel the momentum start to build and really just continued it on from there. I felt like we were out of the hole by the time we got to like June. And then went through that summertime, and then we closed out the year really, really strong, and then launched the Big Ball that January. And so yeah, that's what was going on. But my level of focus and intensity was going pro. Like I was taking this stuff serious now because the stakes were much, much higher.
So let's define it right now then. What does turning pro actually mean to you? Yeah.
And I should probably read this book. There's a book called Turning Pro by Stephen something. He did a lot of books, but he did Turning Pro and he did The War of Art. Not The Art of War, but The War of Art, which is this whole thing. Full disclosure, I haven't read any of those books because I don't really read those books. But for me, turning pro was a mentality shift where I was thinking, how does a pro athlete like approach their craft, their sport that they play, right? Like it's all aspects of their life. And it's their career, it's their craft, right? So can I take that same approach, but my professional sport is the sport of business? That was my framework of turning pro. It was a mentality shift of where I'm like, okay, this is your craft, this is your sport. Treat it as if you're a pro athlete. So if you think like a pro athlete, like your rest and recovery is going to be a big part of it. Your nutrition is going to be a big part of it. Your fitness level is going to be a big part of it. Your work ethic towards getting better and developing your skills within that craft is going to be part of it. You're playing the game at a very, very high level. All those elements bundled in and then just applied to essentially business at that time, which is funny. Then it just evolved into not just trying to be professional in business, but in life.
How did your mindset shift when you started viewing yourself like that?
Well, everything starts working, right? Because you're like obsessed on this one mindset, this one goal of like this professionalism, right? Where you're not missing days anymore. You're not missing days. You're not checking out. You're fully committed into this process of it. When you have that switch, when you're not missing days, that's when real momentum starts to be building, because you're no longer really going like this and then down and then, oh, you're sluggish Monday, Tuesday, and then, okay, Wednesday, okay, Thursday, and then over Friday, it's the weekend again, then back down. And that's repeated all over. And then it's like, oh, I want to take a week off and like, let's go to the cottage. And then, coming back from that, it takes probably another week to really get back into the rhythm of, going to the gym and like what is the most important work and doing deep work on the business and all these elements of it. When you're fully committed to the craft of it and kind of having this pro mentality, everything else drifts away where you're focused in on that. And that shift, if it's like, okay, then what happened from 31 years old to 34 years old right now is insane.
So what changed in terms about like how you trained, recovered, planned, and even executed?
I would say it's hard to even like just like the care for it or the intensity of it, like the commitment to it, where it's not enough to just be doing it. It's how am I doing it better? How am I getting better at it in all the elements, right? How am I sleeping better? How am I eating better? How is nutrition better? How is my movement or working out better? How is my mental health better? How I approach business or building business? How am I getting better at that? Where's my weak points? Like, who should I be leaning on? What help do I need? What am I really good at? How do I double down on those things? How can I set the goals out there and break down the plan and execute the work to achieve those things? All elements. How can I be a better husband? How can I be a better son? Like everything was this, it was just a bigger commitment to myself to be dedicated to do the things that I told myself that I wanted to be doing.
What does it look like when all areas of your life, health, work, family, mindset, are all working together like a team?
You can literally create your own reality, right? Like if I paint that picture of when it was like down in the darks at 31 years old, right? To now at 34 years old, where I got married, had a beautiful wedding, built Neighbor Media, continued to build Neighbor Media like into this amazing business that's absolutely crushing. And we have a clear path to where it can go. And it's bigger than anything I've ever worked on before, right? The pool business have done, I don't even know, like 750 pools, gotten all that cash into, relaunched the Big Ball too, and able to battle through like a zillion adversities with that too, but still be able to execute that plan. Went to Italy for a 1-year wedding anniversary, welcomed my first kid into this world. Now we're building a house, custom building a house, in the best shape of my life by far. Mental health on point, with the feeling of like, oh, I'm just getting started.
All right. And, you mentioned living in seasons and sprints now. How do those concepts guide your year?
Yeah, I think it's just like a framing of how you map out a year, right? And knowing all the different elements and kind of different things that need to be done, and just the rhythm of a year, and knowing of a season of intensity too. Like when the pool business is on, it's like time is so limited too. And then know like what after that intensity period, what you need to do. And and just knowing the rhythm and the cadence of like a 12-month period. So that's how I think about it.
Do you feel like this is how real momentum is actually built, when everything is just connected with each other?
Yeah, I feel like this is the only way that real momentum is built. I don't see a world where if the aspects of your life are disconnected, and I don't see where true momentum can get built.
And looking back at the last 4 years, what's changed the most since you turned pro?
Yeah, I think I touched on that. Like, my life has changed drastically for the better. And my belief in what I can do and achieve has only grown exponentially. And that's only because of that mindset shift of like, let's get serious, let's be a professional, which started as in business, but has now bled over into all aspects of my life. Like, you only got one of these lives. So turn pro.
Do you feel like you're just getting started with this new version of you?
Yeah, I feel like I'm just getting started. I feel like it's going to continue to evolve and grow. Yeah, I feel like we're in very early days. As good as I feel now, it'll be so funny to watch this back when I'm 54.
You don't need more motivation. You need a moment where you say, I'm done playing. So what would turning pro look like for you? Drop it in the comments, the version of you that's ready to go all in.
Boom.